Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And this is week 3 of Fantasy Football 2022.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
We will get things kicked off with Thursday Night Football.
Steelers at Browns.
I'm looking at Pat Freiermuth. This guy is impressing me. We've been pushing him quite hard here on the podcast. I'm a huge fan. I believe Pat Freiermuth will be a top 6 tight end come season's end.
All right, and there was actually a trade offer to me in one of my leagues. Yes, that's right, Jamar Chase, Nick Chubb, and Darren Waller for my Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and Drake London. Yes, I took it, and I will explain why. Nick Chubb is just somebody that me and Rob have always talked about as being a very consistent running back for the Browns, and I think that Kelce probably trending down. Rob has brought this up before. He's a huge proponent of Kelce, so he's going to tell you when the guy is on the rise, when he's on the low. We think that Darren Waller can probably put up the same numbers, and Jamar Chase is just the better guy to have at flex than Drake London, so that's where I'm going with that.
Ravens at Patriots.
Rashad Bateman, another guy we continuously bring up in this podcast. Start this man with confidence. This is the last time we bring him up. Rashad Bateman is the man. And on top of that, Devin DuVernay looks to be concussed, could potentially be out this game, which means more targets for Rashad Bateman. And of course, this more than likely will be a shootout with the Ravens, I think, taking this game.
The Ravens' run defense is actually a little bit better than their pass defense showed against the Dolphins last week. I would actually be benching Damian Harris at the Patriots at home in Foxborough. Damian Harris looked to have a knee injury in the last game. Had a couple of his teammates rolling it around in his leg. Didn't look too good there. He did not return for the rest of the game, and I would be a little bit weary of the Patriots' running game right now and just understand that it might be better for you to go after some of the other options on your bench rather than starting Damian Harris at flex or RB2.
Chiefs at Colts.
Michael Pittman was clearly missed by Matt Ryan in that game against the Jaguars. Go Jags! They're winning the division. You heard it here first. Fantasy R&R. Jaguars win the division. You heard it here first. But Michael Pittman is very, very needed in that Colts offense.
My co-host is obviously very optimistic, and I love that. I don't know what kind of drugs you've been taking, but go Jaguars anyway. I just traded Kelce for Waller, so this is a big story here for me at Chiefs at Colts. Is I am actually just selling Kelce as high as I can right now, and I take Waller. And I do believe that the Chiefs are going to be a formidable opponent in the AFC for most of the season, but Kelce may take a little bit of a back roll here. The Colts are all going to have their downsides at times. I did not love Jonathan Taylor as number 1 overall pick. A lot of people probably heard that if you were one of the 10 that listened to this podcast. But at this point, I'm just going to say that with the Chiefs at Colts, I'm expecting the Chiefs to win this game based off of what happened with that massacre at Jacksonville, although that's usually expected with the Colts team.
Saints at Panthers.
Christian McCaffrey, is that you? That's the question I'm asking myself after 2 weeks in the NFL football season. Christian McCaffrey looks pretty good, topped over 100 yards last Sunday, had a couple of receptions, gained some yards. I'm thinking so. I'd like to see something, though I do think Baker Mayfield probably is the worst, or one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
So I'm going to say this is probably the time to trade Kamara while you can. Rob may not agree with me on this one. He can voice his displeasure right now in some kind of sound clip that we're going to play on the other side of me while I'm talking. I just think at this point, Alvin Kamara is somebody that's expendable on your team. A lot of people holding on to him or drafting him in the top rounds. I was one of them. I just kind of feel like at this point, it's somebody you should try to sell high, see who you can get for him. It looks like he could be at the end of his realm here. It's 2017 running backs. There's a lot of them in this draft class that played, around this time, and they're nearing the end of their running back lifespan, and this is just something we're gonna have to deal with going forward, and we might see that from a few other running backs from this draft class as well.
Texans at Bears.
Cole Kmet, what are you doing? I guess the question should be, what aren't you doing? And that's a whole bunch of nothing, bud. Fields, throw to the guy. Multiple times we saw in that game, Ryan, you texted me. There's no reason that Cole Kmet's not being targeted and is not at least producing, I think, top 10 tight end numbers. I think this is the last week. I'm not starting Cole Kmet just yet, and I'm almost thinking he's fringe-worthy. But Cole Kmet, man, you gotta do something here for me here soon, buddy.
All right, this is a massively lucrative moment for Brandon Cooks in DFS. So if you're doing these daily fantasy leagues in DraftKings or Real-Time Fantasy Sports or any of the other apps right now, Brandon Cooks is going to be great value. The Houston Texans are absolutely horrible. They're not getting anything going on the ground with Dameon Pierce or Rex Burkhead. But let me tell you something about Brandon Cooks. 12 targets in Week 1 against Indy. 10 targets in Week 2 at Denver. He caught 7 in the first one, 4 in the next one. He's got over 135 yards on the season, 11.7 points in the first week, 7.4 in a half PPR league. He is averaging about 9.6 points per week. I think if you were to get him on the cheap in DFS, it could be very lucrative for your wallet.
Bills at Dolphins.
Speaking of where are you, Chase Edmonds? What's going on here? We were talking about you earlier in this podcast. We thought that there was going to be something here going in the run game, pass game. But it seems as if Dolphins have become an air raid offense suddenly. 2-0. Very interesting. And, of course, the game of the week, undoubtedly. Correct, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say that this is the game of the week. I dropped Tua. Let me explain. Oh, I can't. What happened was I had a limited number of bench spots, and Tua had been on my roster for a couple of years, much like other people like Dak Prescott. The second I drop one of them, they turn into an absolute monster. So if any of you had the Dolphins wide receivers this week, you're welcome. I had dropped Tua. I would say probably don't expect him to do this again, but at the same time, if you've got other formidable QBs like Mahomes or Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, you don't have to worry about putting in a waiver claim in the first place.
Lions at Vikings.
Yeah, all I really have to say is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Swift, those guys are pretty good, and I feel like a lot of people were afraid to have drafted them this year, but I think we were talking about them pretty early on in our podcast, and I think we're going to be right about them too, Ryan.
My feeling here in this game is Justin Jefferson is definitely the next AB. We talked about this before. You can draft him in the top 5 every year, and he's, it looks like his floor is about 10 points. Dalvin Cook, you could probably downgrade right now, and it's mostly because that, Kirk Cousins is going to be playing from behind for a lot of the games. Dalvin Cook is also part of the 2017 running back draft class where there's just not going to be that same pep in their step in 2022 as there was back in 2019 or something like that, even after they're getting over some of their injuries. So right now I would say you can draft Jefferson with confidence in redraft and dynasty leagues going forward. Dalvin Cook, you can probably downgrade.
Bengals at Jets.
Yeah, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. I called him last week. God, did he look really good. If this is the type of connection he's going to have with Joe Flacid, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan. That was from you, Joe Flacid. Good one. Had to use it. Then Zach Wilson's got to be better, right? Wilson looks like a legitimate wide receiver 1. I think, in my honest opinion, including another rookie I will talk about a little later in the podcast, but Garrett Wilson looks to be like a true stud going forward.
I'm going to say don't fret on the Bengals right now, and it's because I've seen this before. Stephanie in our ESPN league has Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, and it has paid off. It paid off last year. She went on an absolute tear. I think it's one of those situations where, every once in a while they're going to score 5.7 points, and that's what you get out of them. I saw it last season, but you can expect that, for the majority of the season they're going to be doing the opposite. And that's what's going to get you to the playoffs, and that's what's going to get you to the championship. So right now, I say just, if you've got all the Bengals, you did the right thing. Just hold on to them and, let them fly in your flex position.
Raiders at Titans.
If you're currently rostering Ryan Tannehill on your fantasy football team, go look at yourself in the mirror. Come back, crack open a beer, and drop Ryan Tannehill from your fantasy football team.
Well, you're not fooling anyone, Rob. We all know that was the Seagram's Ginger Ale. Josh Jacobs is probably underutilized, and at this moment he's healthy. You should play him 1 week, just one more week against this team that could be vulnerable against the run during play-action cadences. I think that Josh Jacobs is probably going to be a top play against the Titans, who have been giving up lots of yards and points over the season.
Eagles at Commanders.
Remember how I was talking about that rookie wide receiver I was talking about? Well, that was Jahan Dotson, my guy from Penn State. Looks true-handed, another touchdown today. This guy looks like he is going to be legit. Going forward, Carson Wentz looks surprisingly pretty dang good. I start Jahan Dotson with confidence, like I do with Garrett Wilson, going forward, even just after week 2. That's all I needed to say.
The question is Jalen Hurts for real? This is somebody we talked about on the podcast a couple of years ago, coming into the season as a starting quarterback for the Eagles, taking over Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts has done more on the ground than he has in the air, and we wanted to see a little bit of growth with that this year. So far, we haven't seen that. He does have almost 600 yards passing over 2 games, but he only has 1 touchdown in the air and 1 interception that he gave up. Most of the damage has been done on the ground, as he's averaging over 14 attempts per game and a touchdown per game on the ground. So Jalen Hurts is going to be a fantasy monster. I think anybody who drafted him super high can expect him to get the same level of points as somebody like Lamar Jackson, and we're just going to have to see going forward if he can put it together for the air. But I am going to say that this is probably going to be a Bills at Eagles Super Bowl for this season.
Jaguars at Chargers.
Evan Ingram, have him on 2 of my rosters, and the one that the week I started him was week 1. He sucked. I sat him last week. He was actually pretty good. I'm thinking Evan Ingram could be the top 11th tight end coming to next season, surely, because of, 1, he's a tight end with a heartbeat, starts for an NFL team, and it's going to be the sheer volume he's going to get. It looks as if the Jaguars, go Jags, are going to be an air raid offense. I believe it's going to be true. I think Ingram's going to see it a lot. I think they've got a very good run game here going on. And I think tight end, outside of the top, as we always say, Evan Ingram is just as much as a dice roll as any tight end not named Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and maybe Darren Waller.
So if you're going to ask me if I would drop Cole Kmet for Evan Ingram or someone like that, I would absolutely say yes. Joshua Palmer is also somebody that I would consider dropping Cole Kmet for, and you can move him to the bench in exchange for someone like Gerald Everett at tight end. Gerald Everett is on the same team as Joshua Palmer right now, and he's probably 4 or 3 in the pecking order. We saw a little bit of a success from Everett on week 1 and week 2, and I think that he could also pay off here. So if you're struggling with Cole Kmet, you're expecting him to do more in the Bears offense, you could drop him safely for someone like Gerald Everett, who's probably still on the waiver wire.
Packers at Buccaneers.
Hey, Aaron Rodgers, pass the damn ball to Robert Tonyan.
So we've just gotten some word that Cole Beasley was added to the Buccaneers roster. It's somebody that can definitely help in the slot right now amongst their injury issues, and Mike Evans getting suspended for 1 game due to that little scuffle he had with Marshawn Lattimore. At this moment, I wouldn't go rushing out to add Cole Beasley, but I would also think about trading away Godwin or possibly dropping him due to the news that he might be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks on top of what they already projected. So keep your eye on the injury report, but this may be time to do some damage control and add Cole Beasley.
Rams at Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm looking at my guy Cam Akers. I'm going back to Cam Akers. Is that a heartbeat? Is he now getting a couple touches just to see what it looks like between him splitting carries? I think so. I think I'm not starting Cam Akers this week, but I'm benching him, and if he goes up this week, I will be starting him week 4.
Okay, I was wrong about Cooper Kupp. He's been an absolute monster. Probably could have been drafted in the top 3 for fantasy redraft leagues this year. But I will say in this particular game, the one thing sticking out to me right now is Rondale Moore is back this week. DeAndre Hopkins still is not. AJ Green's been pretty much the only target on that team. Kyler Murray's been struggling. I think he's going to look to Rondale Moore to get a lot of the targets in this game. So if you're in a DFS league or you're desperate at flex 2, Rondale Moore is somebody to look at.
Falcons at Seahawks.
This is a fantasy R&R PSA for all you 10 listeners out there. When Marcus Mariota loses his starting quarterback job. Go get Desmond Ridder.
So I just want to say you could probably bench or drop Rashad Penny. This is a science experiment some people were taking on because of his success at the end of last year, but he has been in the league since 2018 and hasn't actually produced much. I would say with Kenneth Walker coming in and getting a couple of rush attempts and 3 targets in the last game, now that he's fully healthy, you can downgrade Rashad Penny, and if you see Kenneth Walker on the waiver wire, I would pick him up everywhere, including redraft and keeper leagues.
49ers at Broncos.
Ryan, do you hear that? Is that what I think it is?
It is what you think it is.
Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy G, aka the Italian sedan, is back. And if you're rostering Jimmy G or having to add him thinking he's worth a damn, you are wrong.
So my big takeaway here is on the Broncos, Russell Wilson seems to be done. It looks to be the end of his career right now. Jerry Jeudy's got a rib injury, so he's not going to be the number 1 target. And that Alex whatever the African name is, I don't know what's going on with him. You're going to want to start Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams, and no one else on this Broncos team.
Running blacks.
Holy shit, that's racist.
Let's talk about Cowboys and Giants.
Oh, this is my take. Tony Pollard is a better Ezekiel Elliott than Ezekiel Elliott is. You heard that here. We love Tony Pollard. Me and Ryan, huge infatuation with that man. Ryan, what do you think?
I think I just want to fuck Tony Pollard's butt. You talk about infatuation, I'm talking about masturbation. Tony Pollard is the fucking man. 87% rostered in Yahoo leagues, 99% rostered in my heart. Tony Pollard, trade or acquire now. So that's going to do it for week 3. This was once again Rob and Ryan with Fantasy Hour, and we'll see you next time.